session. So, welcome back to part 2 of the live testing with the Acer Aspire 1522 on the AMD platform. We're going to go into a bit more detail on the testing now. I'm just doing a boot up test. We're going to do browser tests. We're going to talk about noise, heat. We're going to do video performance, YouTube, and a lot of other stuff. This might be broken into a couple of sections, but let's quickly switch the cam, because that is just about to boot into Windows 7 there, and the time was 45 seconds cold boot. That's really not bad at all. The the wireless LAN is now connected. It's connected now, so it's well under a minute for booting and connecting to the LAN, which is really not bad. I said 60 seconds before on boot time, and I got a feeling that was before I deinstalled McAfee. As I mentioned in the chat earlier on, that I had uninstalled McAfee and seen a definite performance increase in terms of usability of the Windows 7 Starter Edition. So that might be something you should consider as well. Who am I talking to? I think I'm preaching to the converted here anyway. There's a load of apps that are pre-installed. As I said earlier, not much is running. Just the McAfee. There was a Norton's thing. There's a couple of Acer support registration reminders, pop-ups, but actually a lot of the software is just packages that can be installed. For example, Skype, and there's a lot of games that can be run, but they don't run in the background anyway. I think it's about 67 applications were running, or processors were running, when I looked at the device. So what I want to mention first is heat and noise. I've been really impressed with this device so far. I've been running it for 24 hours and really no real problems with heat at all. This is the first, I have to say, the first AMD kind of ultra mobile or mobile computer that I've had that hasn't been a very hot device. For those of you that followed UMC support for a couple of years, you'll know that we had the Radeon Digital Everrun Note, which was also a dual core 1.3 gigahertz Athlon CPU X2, I think it was, with a Radeon coprocessor, and my god, that got hot, very very hot indeed. This has been really good. The fan is on all the time, but it's obviously a biggish fan in there because it seems to be running at a fairly low RPM rate, and there's no real noise coming through it. If you're working in a quiet room, you're going to hear the fan. And if you're working in a quiet room and you're doing some heavy graphics and stuff, you'll probably hear the fan and notice the fan. But this, in comparison with other devices, is really nothing to worry about. The fan is there in the background and not too noisy. So that's good news on the heat and the noise thing there. Battery life we're testing as we go along through the sessions this evening. But I can already say that this is a minimum 5 hours device, minimum, and in general probably 7 hours, 6 to 7 hours of usage with Wi-Fi on, and screen brightness set to medium, low, with sensible power settings, so balanced power settings, and a screen that times out if you're not using it too much, and if you're not gaming or doing massive amounts of processing all the time. In fact, we're sitting here right now, it's showing 6 hours 16 minutes, and we've used 10% already. So 5 hours is probably the kind of the lowest average that you'll see. 7 hours, the highest average, 6 hours is what you could consider it to be used for, which isn't bad for 1.17 kilograms at all. Really quite impressed with that from the Fusion platform. And I have to admit, when I was testing Fusion or getting demos of Fusion back at CES and Computex last year, I was a little bit skeptical. Sorry AMD, you've done a great job so far on things like heat, noise, battery life. Idle power down on this is down to a good 4.5 with the screen low, and the Wi-Fi off, 4.5 watts is excellent. That matches some of the best from the Intel Atom devices, so they seem to have got to grips. Speed set works. It goes from 800 megahertz to 1 gigahertz, which is not a huge range, and it's only a one step of CPU I keep wanting to say bandwidth, clock rate settings, not massive. So you can lock that down to 800 if you need to get more out of it as well. Right, I'm going to do some application startups now. You know that I've just booted this device, so this is the first startup time for the device. I haven't done any optimizations on Windows 7. It's Windows 7 Starter, 32-bit, 1 gig of RAM on this. The only thing I've done is deinstalled McAfee, and the Norton backup was a notifier that wanted me to install that. So let's go to Firefox, and I'll count up the install. It's a Toshiba 5200 RPM 2.5-inch SATA drive, 3 gigabits a second interface, and what was I going to say? Can't remember. 250 gigs of storage. So here we go. Let's do this. 2, 1. Okay. Now that's 3, 4. Sorry, 5, 6, 7. 7 seconds to start Firefox is probably average for a hard drive based system. Now that is going to be improved a lot. I shouldn't talk about SSDs because this hasn't got an SSD in it, but this is one thing I want to do, and one thing I've had for the last 2 years is a fast SSD. I use a Core Pro 4 on my old Gigabyte Touch Note, which starts Firefox up in 2-3 seconds. So 7 seconds is not super fast. It was actually around 10 seconds when I tried it yesterday with McAfee installed. So that was really slowing down disk activity. 7 seconds is not too bad. Let's start up a few other apps here, and I might bring in the touch note here to show you how quickly that starts up. We will start up Windows Live. Let's have a look. What should we start up? Well, let's start up the Windows Media Player. 1, 2, 3, 5. So that was about 5 seconds. Not too bad. That's not going to upset anyone. And then we'll do Windows Live Writer, which can take quite a while actually. This is the latest version of Windows Live Writer. And 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 14, 15, 16. Now that's over 16 seconds to start up Live Writer, and that should be under 10 seconds with an SSD. So I don't think the disk is the fastest. I don't think the disk is really helping get the best out of the system. So an SSD upgrade could be something that this device will really take advantage of. We're also running on 1 gig of RAM as well, so there won't be too much caching going on. And Windows 7 is only 24 hours old, so it probably hasn't worked out quite what apps I'm using the most anyway. So that's a couple of startup speeds. Let's go into some browsing tests now. I've got Flash 10.2 installed, which is the version that supports Fusion. We're connected to a local Wi-Fi at 54 megabits a second. So let's go and do some browsing tests. Go straight to UMC portal here and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's done, and that's no, sorry, it's not. That's 13, 14. About 13 seconds to load my pretty heavy page. There's a couple of flash ads there. Loads of there's some PHP in there. There's quite a bit, so it's a fairly heavy page. But there you can see, I want to zoom in on that. There you can see where the 1280 screen really helps on web browsing, because my website is only 900 wide. That really makes a difference. If I really want to fire up the touch now, I'll just do that in the background to show you the difference in screens. And we'll also show you the startup time with an SSD as well. But let's go to Engadget, which is also a good test. And Engadget.com. Remember, we're in Germany. I don't get the best of performance from US websites, and mine is also a US website. That's still loading. That's done. That was fairly quick. And Engadget is a very long image heavy site, and everything's really nice and smooth there. Scrolling through, really no problem. Yeah, so that's reasonable performance there from the device. Now, I don't think there's any HTML5 going on in here, so there won't be an acceleration of the canvas elements, but that in theory is possible with the C50 APU. It's something that AMD promote quite a lot, that it could help browsing, at least HTML5. What I want to do now is I'm just starting Firefox up. Started in about 3 seconds there on my touch note. I'm just starting it to the side, but I want to show you Engadget. And this touch note feels so big and heavy now after I've had the 522. It's really something I won't be able to go back to very easily. And so you can see there the width. Hopefully, let's just get something up on the screen that gives you an idea of the width that you've got there. You can see there. Actually, I haven't got the Flash stuff loaded, but if I load the Flash stuff, you can see we've got this much either side here on this one, and it's full on the 1024 width here. I hope you can see that on my low quality live stream here. And this is running an SSD on the left, so it's also running XP, which actually helps to speed things up a little bit, to be honest. But for example, I can open Chrome in kind of did I hit it? Like 1 or 2 seconds. It's taking its time. There you go. That's demonstrating for you. Now it's hung. But trust me, app startup times on this are excellent because of the SSD, and that's something I want to do on the C50. Right, let's just put that to one side there. Let's go to YouTube, because this is another important feature of the C50 is that it's got an HD video decoder in it that Flash 10.2 can take advantage of. So I'm going to go to YouTube right now, and we are going to try and find an HD video, and we will do Asteroid Impact HD, which is a nice one to demo. Now remember, please, the video you're seeing is recorded at PAL resolution, and you're seeing probably I think it's 380 by, you're seeing a 352 by 288 version of this at 20 frames a second. So unfortunately it won't come across brilliantly for you guys, but we'll do the tests and I'll tell you, you should at least see if there's any stutters. So there's the 360p, no problems there. Let's go to 480p, and again, no problems there, and super smooth, really nice. Even the overlays are working without causing any stutter there. I'm going to knock it up a notch now to 720p, and that's the maximum this one will go to, and that is just super smooth. There's nothing there that I could say is a single frame drop. It's just perfect, absolutely perfect. Full screen. If I move the mouse across, no differences. If I put an overlay up, no frame drops, perfect. So what I want to do, having demoed 720p, is do let's do a 1080. Find a 1080p video, and we'll do the good old big buck bunny animation that you see a million times in every expo, and we'll put that at 1080p. We'll do it embedded first, and then we'll switch to full screen. Now remember, YouTube HD 1080p videos are pretty highly compressed. Depending on the video, it can be down to 3.5 megabits a second. Really hugely compressed video. So it's not a huge perfect 1080p test. I have got a 1080p file that I'll test, and it's a 13 megabit per second average bit rate. So embedded working perfectly there. I'm going to go full screen. That's beautiful, and it's just catching up. So the bit rate on this, I'm just going to show the video info. Bit rate was, of course, this is going to affect probably the stream going up as well. I'm trying to, in fact, I've got a whole load of stuff going on here that I should be switching off. But when it's running at 5 megabits per second, and it is super smooth on the 1080 on the 720p screen here. Really, really nice. Now, as I said earlier, the color of the screen is not brilliant. Doesn't pop like some screens I've seen. It's a little bit washed out, so this may not be your perfect video player, but it's got the HDMI out, and putting it on a 1080 screen is something I need to show you. So I'm going to do that right now, and just bear with me. Going to switch the 1080p screen here on my left up to show the so we're now on a 1080p screen here. I'm going to pop that up to full screen, and that really, really is nice. There's my hand to show you quite how big that is. That is something. 299 euros just for that is pretty impressive, to be honest. 1080p playback to a 1080p screen. Alright, so that was only 5 megabits per second. What we want to do now, I want to show you 13 megabits per second played through Windows Media Player. So we'll quickly do that. I'll go to videos. So let's first of all play a 720p video. We'll play that at full screen. And because the digital audio is going through the HDMI cable, it's not you're not hearing anything. Well, I'm not hearing anything, but you probably weren't hearing anything on the last video anyway, but it was coming out of the speakers. 720p there, playing perfectly. And now I'm going to play 1080p. So this is 13 megabits per second of H.264, and it's really, really nice. It's very, very impressive. It's 13 megabits per second. 13 megabits per second. Shall I say that again? Right, let's just start the task manager and see what CPU usage is there. 50%. So clearly a lot of the stuff, 40%, 36%, 45%. So clearly the video is being offloaded to the GPU, the HD decoder. There's obviously the audio is being decoded in the CPU, and the splitting of the audio and the video from the files from the H.264 is also happening in CPU as well. So that's why you're getting 36%. But there, 1080p working absolutely flawlessly. Very impressive, AMD. Very impressive indeed. So one thing you can't do on the Windows 7 Starter Edition is you can't do extended desktop. What you can do is mirrored desktop. Let me just do that now. There is mirrored desktop, so you've got it on both the monitor here and the local device, but the monitor will take the same resolution as this. So the monitor is now showing 720p, which is a shame. Extended desktop is enabled when you get to Windows 7 Home Premium, so bear that in mind. So let's just switch this back to the local one. We're going to pull out the HDMI cable there, and what I want to do now is stop the recording of this section of the demo, go to the chat room and answer some questions, and then we'll carry on in part 3 of this recorded video. This one, you might be watching it on YouTube. If you are, thanks for watching. But if you want all the live stuff, follow me at Chippy on Twitter, and you'll get notifications of when the next live session starts. You'll be able to join the chat session and see all the things that go on outside the recorded session. So that's part 2. Part 3 is also available after this.